Welcome to Mastering Fundraising, a podcast for nonprofit leaders of all titles and all experience levels. Mastering Fundraising endeavors to cover the most important fundraising topics with the goal of helping the audience reach their full potential as fundraisers. This podcast will share stories, tips, and guidance on the most important elements of fundraising. If you want to earn an advanced degree in fundraising, this is the podcast for you. Mastering Fundraising is a collaboration between Fulcrum Nonprofit Leadership and the 5-Tool Fundraiser, two leaders in providing relevant and expert content to fundraisers and nonprofit leaders. Without further delay, let's jump into the current episode. Please join me in welcoming your host for today, Chris Looney.
Welcome to Mastering Fundraising, a show that interviews the world's top fundraisers to explore the most important fundraising topics with the goal of helping the audience reach their full potential as fundraisers. My name is Chris Looney, and I have the good fortune to be your host for this deep dive into fundraising. And today on the Mastering Fundraising podcast, we're joined by Jim Boyle, who serves as the chief fundraiser on staff with the Charles Darwin Foundation based in the Galapagos Islands. And Jim is working on one of the most ambitious and inspiring fundraising campaigns in the world, to my opinion. And it's designed to restore the ecological balance to the islands that are home to some of the planet's most unique species. And beyond the boldness of that vision, Jim brings such a deep perspective on what it takes to remain hopeful, optimistic, and motivated in the face of enormous challenges. And whether it's sort of the soaring number of unhoused individuals in our communities, unchecked habitat loss, or the staggering scale of global ecosystem collapse, all very positive stuff, he reminds us that the fundraising journey isn't about the dollars raised all the time. It's also about sustaining our own spirit and energy for the long road ahead. So thanks for joining me today, Jim.
Hey, thanks for having me. And I really like the introduction that you're interviewing some of the world's top fundraisers.
Right, right. You are in good company.
I feel very privileged. Thank you.
Yeah. You don't need to feel privileged. You've
Okay.
earned that right over
Great.
decades
Good.
of fundraising for some of the world's top organizations, and
Yeah.
also in the consulting world. We used to work together. You worked for a few consulting firms that are top notch. So
Yeah.
the quality and caliber of your leadership is without question. And we're looking forward to learning from you and taking advantage of that experience that you've gained over those decades of fundraising for all of these great organizations. So to kick us off, I'd love to explore your leadership journey a bit for the audience to understand. And I'd love to for you to tell us a little bit more about your leadership journey in the nonprofit space. How did you get to be where you are today?
You know, I worked in medical fundraising for a number of years, working with doctors. And I remember my supervisor at the time, who wasn't as good as you, Chris, but still was a good person, right?
Nice.
And saying that, you talk to these doctors and they say, how do you get your career? And they go, well, I've been studying this for 12 years. I've been dedicating my life to get to this point. And then the physician would ask you, well, how'd you get into fundraising? And so many fundraisers would say, well, I just kind of fell into it, right? I just kind of developed it. And it sets you up on an unequal precedent. Like, this is their career and their passion. We're just kind of doing this as a side. And so, we really would like to talk about how, fundraising was a journey of awareness and the impact we can make. In reality, I did kind of fall into it a little bit, but I've been working with a number of organizations, and so many of them were just stressed by money. They couldn't get to their mission by money. And I remember in sixth grade, I think it was, going to the guidance counselor and saying, he goes, "What do you want to do for your career?" And I go, "Well, maybe be a professional football player." And he goes, "Well, you're 5'2", 100 pounds. That's probably not going to happen, right? And could are you interested in being a doctor or this or that or an astronaut or what's your interest?" And as a fundraiser, I've done all those things. I've helped sports programs, I've helped science programs, I've helped medical programs, I've helped social programs. So it's a one career that I really feel like you can have a broad impact across multiple spectrums.
I love it. And what has been your favorite professional role over those decades, and why was it so special?
I have to say, the current work I'm doing with the Charles Darwin Foundation in the Galapagos is really up there, and it's up there for two reasons. One, the mission's important, and the work we're doing is important, and that's true for a lot of organizations. But what's really special is I absolutely just love the people I'm working with.
Mm.
They are. There's not a person on the team that I wouldn't want to spend weeks with. They're just great. And so that's what's making it so special is the people we get to work with.
That and that's important. I think that is something that's often ignored in fundraising. You know, the work is hard. It's not always positive because you have a lot of rejection in your life as a fundraiser to get to those wins. But it all is easier or better when you enjoy the people you work with
Yeah.
and look forward to being in community with them. So well said there for sure. Over the years, and you're prohibited from saying me. Okay. The question I have is during your leadership journey, who were some of the important mentors in your life and how did they influence you?
Without naming names, there's been a couple folks, well, I'll name one name. We know him. Bob Beiersdorf was a great influence. To tell you the truth, some of my football coaches over the years that I actually, or sports coaches were great. And even my current supervisor, a guy named Rakan Zahawi, who's great. And I guess the one thing that I've learned from them, I'm continually trying to learn, and they've all shared the same information in different things. And what I struggle with is the work we're doing is important and it does matter.
Good.
Um, keeping things in balance is important too. And I think we'll talk about this later more. But as a lot of the fundraisers I work with, we just get so caught up in our work that we don't leave a balance. And
Mhm.
if you want to be involved in organizations for the long haul, then you can't burn out. And I think that's really a hard thing for fundraisers to deal with.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's good. Good advice and words of wisdom there for sure. Well, thank you for giving us a little bit of
Yeah.
background on your fundraising and nonprofit leadership experience. And I'm excited to jump into the main topic of our conversation today, which has sort of everything to do with what it takes to remain hopeful, optimistic, and motivated in the face of enormous challenges, which is very common for fundraisers like you and so many others, where you're really on the front lines of a war that does not seem to have an end, right? When we talk about homelessness, when we talk about famine or food insecurity, when we talk about poverty, justice issues, it's not as if this world is ever going to solve those issues, right? They are issues that will be with us forever, but there's an obligation that we have as human beings to improve the situation, not only for ourselves, but others. And it's a just job and it's a just fight to be in those arenas every day
Yeah.
working. So that's the topic of our conversation today, and I'm excited to jump in and explore that with you because I think that there are a number of fundraisers out there that really struggle with how to stay fresh and motivated and positive and excitement and not feel constantly burned out and beaten down and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So let's frame the challenge a little bit. And We know you're working on a really enormous campaign to support the Galapagos Islands, the ecosystem there. And when you step back and look at the global scale of challenges like climate change, habitat loss, other social crises, because you've worked in those as well, how do you personally avoid feeling overwhelmed?
Yeah, sometimes I don't. You
Okay,
know,
okay, okay.
just it just sometimes it gets to you, and you need to take a break. But I'll share two stories. So for years, I worked for a group working to preserve the tropics, and a great organization. And over their 60-year history, there's not a measure I think you could look at to say the tropics are in better shape now than they were 60 years ago. We've lost so much habitat. And I
Okay.
remember talking to the executive director and said, geez, as an organization, we've really failed, because we haven't done this. And her response, and I remember to the day, was think how bad it would be if we weren't doing our work.
Okay.
We may not have saved everything, but we saved something. And so that was inspiring. And then there's a book, it's a couple of years old now. It's called, I'm looking at it now, it's called The Future We Choose: Surviving the Climate Crisis by Christina Figueres. And she's just a leader in the climate movement out of Costa Rica. And hopefully I'm paraphrasing her book, but it's like, we all know we should give up eating meat. We should just give it up, right, for the environment, right? But that's kind of unrealistic for some of us, right? So instead of beating ourselves about not doing everything, just embrace that we're doing something. So maybe we give up meat twice a week or, every other week. She goes, celebrate what you are doing. Don't yell at yourself for what you're not doing. And I just thought that was really beautiful. She goes, there's not going to be one huge thing that changes the climate crisis. It's going to be all of us doing little things, and we should just thank ourselves for those. So
Okay.
keeping those kind of words in mind really help when things seem a little bit hopeless.
That's good. I appreciate
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
you've seen these local and global challenges firsthand, rising homelessness, collapsing ecosystems, all these things. Like, what parallels do you see between these seemingly different struggles?
Yeah, years ago in another life, I had an opportunity to work with Senator Paul Wellstone out of Minnesota. Just an incredible leader. Unfortunately, passed away in a tragic plane accident. But his stance, his saying, and I've stuck with it, is we all do better when we all do better. And it's a simple thing, right? And somehow I think we've lost that. Not because we've become mean, not because we've become selfish, but we've become so worried about just getting through that we've lost track of our fellow creatures on this planet, fellow human beings. And so that sense of empathy of, boy, I don't have everything I need, so I can't give anything to somebody else. When in reality, a lot of us have more than we ever need. And so just understanding we are a global community, I think we've lost that understanding a little bit.
Yeah, well, it's true. Very good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so let's try to figure out how we find hope and optimism and all of this stuff. You've talked about the importance of celebrating the little successes. We've just covered that a little bit. Can you share a story where a small win gave you kind of the energy to keep going?
One of the projects, we're talking about this restoration effort in the Galapagos, right? And we're working on one island right now, Floriana, and it's been about a 10-year effort. A lot of organizations have been doing this, right? So this is not anything I've been involved with. I'm just, and I'm not a scientist, so I may not get all the details right, but we're close, right?
Good. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So the
You're not a
big trans,
scientist, but you play one in your
yes, on
job,
TV.
right? Like
Yes,
as a
exactly.
fundraiser,
Yeah, yeah.
you might
Yes.
not be the doctor, but you kind of
Yes,
pretend
yes,
to be one a lot
yes.
of times. Like,
So in one hospital, somehow I started getting introduced as Dr. Boyle, and I and
nice.
I never corrected him.
That's
But
fine. That's fine.
yeah, but
You are you are a
yes,
PhD in something.
Something, exactly. But so this effort, it's been a 10-year effort on this one island, Floriana Island, first to remove invasive species, mostly goats, rats, cats, and blackberries. And so millions of dollars have been getting into this effort. And it's been lately, so a lot of the time is spent in planning and building community, and just the restoration efforts, the eradication efforts have happened over the last couple of years, right? But within 2 years, like I think it was this year, earlier this year, the Galapagos rail, which is a small bird, was documented on the island, and I think the first time in 100 years.
Oh my
It,
gosh.
it was, and I think it might have been documented when Darwin was there, and not until now. And I think that little story, shows the power and resiliency of nature. If we just give her a little space, man,
Right.
she can do a lot. And there's no active efforts in recovering this rail. It just showed up,
Yeah.
and nobody knows how or where or if it was here. But boy, just reducing the predator population of rats and cats allowed this species to respond.
Yeah.
So it's exciting that some of the stuff we're doing works if we just give it a chance.
Yeah, yeah, and you're creating momentum. Momentum comes from progress, even if it's just incremental. So I love these sort of small wins together that create momentum that allow good things to happen, like the returning bird
Yeah.
population. That's wonderful. You emphasize acknowledging feelings as real and valid. Um, why do you think fundraisers sometimes try to power through rather than sit with those emotions?
I don't know. And yet I do it as well. And I think it's only recently in my career that I'm able to say to my staff and my supervisor, man, I'm feeling tired or I'm feeling burned out. And because I think we want to project this sense of confidence, this sense of energy, this sense of optimism. Donors respond, to optimism more than they respond to despair. And so I think fundraisers are generally optimistic people.
Right.
And so we want to hold on to that, and we feel like there's an image to portray. So I wouldn't advocate going around, being Eeyore-like, just doom and
Hmm.
gloom all the kind of times. But we all feel tired sometimes. We all feel despondent. We all feel like maybe a big gift that we were expecting that could make a lot. Maybe we've been funding this experiment that didn't work. A disappointment is okay. I hate to do this because there's a Peloton instructor that I use a lot, right? And not that they're the best on the wisdom and motivation, but she says once you're faced with a challenge, you can't control your first reaction. So if I'm saying, okay, we got 10 more minutes on the bike or 30 more seconds on the bike, and you go, oh my gosh, no. She goes, you can't control that first reaction. You can control your second reaction. And she goes, that's where the power comes from. So you can say, oh my gosh, this is bad, and take a day to be sad. And then you come back in the next day and go, my second reaction is we're going to find a way to do this. So so I guess I've been working on my second reaction, acknowledging my first reaction, embracing it and saying that's okay. But what's my second reaction that I'm going to control?
Yeah, I love that. That's great. And thank
Yeah.
goodness we have Aristotle, Socrates, and Peloton instructors to to
They're
help
great.
us make it
Yes.
through,
Yes.
dropping wisdom on us
Yes,
that allows
yes.
us.
The other thing they say, like, you've come this far to only go this far. And I think it's like, okay, great. I don't know what it means, but I appreciate the wisdom. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's fun.
Well, it's an interesting concept that vulnerability and honesty might actually help prevent burnout, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yes,
maybe
exactly.
there is some burnout because the person isn't being authentic, isn't naming their true feelings enough of the time, and hasn't learned that one-two punch of like you have to acknowledge it and then you have to find the power to get over it and move on. Uh,
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. And
it's
if you
an
stay in one or the other, if you stay in the just the despondency, that's not good. But if you just stay in the powering through, I don't think that's good either. I think you need those
yeah.
in tandem. So,
Good, 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 good. Well, how do you personally draw a line between healthy acknowledgement of frustration and the risk of being discouraged?
I'm not sure if I do it well. I think sometimes we cross one way or another too much. One, having trust and confidence in my team and my family and my friends that if I say discouraging things, they know that in my heart, I'm an optimistic person. I'm going to go keep finding a way. And then allowing them to provide support, not just saying I'm frustrated, but asking for help. If there's a project that's too overwhelming, if there's a problem I can't resolve, all those things I think are super, super helpful.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it's just you need to take a break. Go for a walk, go for a run, read a book, watch a movie. I'm going to mess this quote up as well, but you probably know it better. But Edward Abbey, saying go out there and enjoy the nature, enjoy life. We're going to outlive the bastards, and so that's I think is the point of we got to enjoy what we're trying to protect.
Yeah. Well, I love the idea of, being in community and having people that can help um, lift you up or put some guardrails around you, protect you, that kind of thing. That's
Yeah,
important. I love also the advice or idea of, taking a break and
yeah,
uh, walking around the block or in nature, whatever. My father used to get so upset about silly things, and we all do. Maybe him a little bit more than most, but he used to storm out of the house and say, "I need to get some air." You know,
yeah,
his way of dealing with things was to just shut down, depart, and get air, whatever that means. I don't
yeah,
know. He actually went in a car, so I'm not sure what kind of air he was getting, but
yeah.
um, just the idea though that like you need to sometimes decompress, get away, take a deep breath, figure your stuff out, and regroup. So all very important to us as fundraisers to find those mechanisms to recenter ourselves and get ourselves back into action, back in the game.
Yeah.
Um, you've mentioned the importance of building both professional and personal support networks. You're a member of Fulcrum, which is just one of the many different ways to do that. What does that look like in practice for you?
I do want to call out Fulcrum because it really is one of the first professional organizations I've been involved with, and um, it is interesting to be in these kind of group chats and group conversations and hearing other people's frustrations and their troubles. Part of it, it's like, oh my gosh, at least I don't have that problem. So,
Right. Yes,
so it's
yes.
like it can feel a little bit better. But also, I don't know if you remember a workshop or small group meeting we were having. I was dealing with an issue of how to jumpstart a fundraising effort for a program. And the advice of the group was really helpful. And it was helpful in two ways. It was good advice, but also, and nothing against the group, none of the advice was earth-shattering. Like fundraising is pretty basic stuff. But to hear other professionals say the same thing I was thinking was really affirming, was really like, oh, there's not a magic hat. There's not a magic pill, right? It's some of these hard efforts. And just hearing other professionals say the same thing was really empowering. It's like, okay, we do have a plan and this will work. So, and once again, it was, we all want to go into these gatherings and saying, I'm the best, but it's helpful to be vulnerable and you can learn a lot. And so
Yeah.
it was a wonderful expression. And so
Good.
um,
Good.
so professional networks like Fulcrum have been really valuable.
That's great. And I loved what you said about it being affirming because a lot of times we assume that we need to be in dialogue with other professionals so that they can tear our ideas apart or give us better ideas than our own. But oftentimes we have good ideas and we just need the backup to know that we're on the right track, which is really good. So the idea that networks can be affirming, but also can provide perspective, provide encouragement, provide accountability, which is often something a lot of us need to get things done. I mean, I was up late last night, not for a professional responsibility, but a personal volunteer responsibility. My task list was growing a little bit out of control with these personal volunteer responsibilities, and this one was for a kid's booster, and just I had to buckle down, and the accountability came from a couple of parents who were like, "Hey, we're all waiting."
Yes, yes, yes,
For this, for you,
yes,
so come on, man. Like, and I felt the pressure of it. And it's a good thing. It was accountability, right? And I
yes,
felt a lot of weight lifted once I got that done. Um, and also, I did feel badly while I was sitting on my hands in a way. I mean, I was busy with other stuff, but
yes, yes, yeah.
sometimes you got to lift that burden off by getting stuff done.
Yeah, but getting stuff done does help, and it's interesting. Just as not a counter, but just another scenario. So we just finished this huge event, and as it was getting closer, one of my colleagues said, "How are you feeling?" And I go, "Geez, I'm really nervous." And they go, "What are you nervous about?" She goes, "What are you nervous about?" I say, "Well, I'm worried about letting the organization down. I'm worried about letting, my colleagues down. I'm worried about letting our supporters down. I'm worried about letting the Galapagos down." And she said something like, she goes, "Well, we're all in this together. It's not you, it's us. And so it's a shared burden that we're all happy to take. And so it was a relief to know that sometimes I think we like to put it all on our backs and saying, this is my responsibility. I'm the only one who can do this.
Right.
And where there's people around us who are willing to be part of that journey if we just let them in. So
Yeah.
so
Love that.
it was so beautiful, what she said.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely totally appropriate. And um, I think being in a place where you have others who are saying to you, I got your back. We're in this together.
Yeah,
Is the kind of personal and professional community that you need to find yourself in, right? Because
yeah,
you can be isolated in your work, you could be isolated in your life. And the surest way, I think, to be beaten down, to be overcome with um, baggage or negativity, or to not be able to get yourself out of a rut is to be alone.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
How
And
how
then Yeah, and the more you get worried about how people are viewing you, like you were saying earlier, like, well, if I share this idea, all my colleagues and friends are going to beat it down and show out the flaws. But if you can build that trust with people and knowing that, yeah, some of your ideas may not be very good, but some will be, and it's beautiful. Our team right now, I'll present something, and the first thing the team says was, "Oh, that's great, right? That's good. Here's some ways that more." And at the end, the end event, the end thing is probably very different from what I proposed, but it's gotten better.
Mhm.
And so developing that level of trust with your colleagues and your friends and your network is so helpful to maintain some lower your anxieties.
Yeah, good, good, good. You've also talked about the importance of play. I think you've quoted Edward Abbey
Yeah.
multiple times, even here so far. Um, so, what is the theory about integrating play and joy into your life? Especially when you're working on such high stakes and serious business. What's the rationale for play?
So, and listeners may not have a lot of sympathy for me, right? but I spend about 40% of my time in the Galapagos, which actually is great, but it's also hard. It's a long trip down there, and when I get there, we have a field station there, and so everybody's eager to see me, and so my days are just packed.
Right.
Start at 7, and we're dealing with people in Europe and Japan, and so we're in all the time zones all the time. So it's easy to get started and stay late, and you do that day after day, and the cabins are about 100 yards from my office, and so my universe gets really small, and it's easy to get in this rut. And one day I was just feeling really discouraged and tired, and another meeting, and I decided to take a break and go snorkeling, which is about another 100 yards from my office. So go one way in your cabin, another way you're in this 75-degree water. So I went snorkeling, and it's like within 10 minutes, you're swimming over these black-tipped sharks, which are great, but they're only like 3 feet long, totally harmless, but they're sharks, right? And then you're seeing skates and rays and all these fish and marine iguanas swimming in the water, when the few iguanas that actually swim, and they dive down. And one day I was swimming, and literally a sea lion is swimming beside me. They're
Mhm.
just so friendly. And it's hard after these kind of experiences not to come out and be refreshed. So I probably swam for half an hour, 45 minutes, and I was completely rejuvenated. So
Right.
it makes you realize why the work is important. It renews your energy, and you just smile. And anytime you can smile, the world's a little bit better. So
Yeah, yeah, I love that. So it was kind of a refueling
yeah,
exercise for you,
yeah,
right? You're depleted from the work and you need to, recharge your battery in some way that's going to bring joy to
yeah,
you. And it's interesting. I used to find that running, the
yeah.
jogging, I shouldn't call it running, and a slow jog at that, but cleared my mind and allowed me to actually think about things in a much more creative way. And as I look back, some of these runs that might have just happened midday because I needed to
Yeah,
decompress, I needed a break, would allow me to get the answer to a particular challenge or question that I had in my mind that I could not solve while I was on the phone with someone else or sending an email or at my desk, not able to really think clearly. And so these jogs, your snorkel, become a way to um, re-energize yourself, yes, but also to unlock that creativity, to let your brain be free to work on issues,
yeah.
in a way that isn't as depleting.
And not everybody can take a lunch break and go snorkeling with sea lions, right? But you can
Or
do
even take a
something.
jog, right? Or even
Or
take
just
a
yeah,
jog.
but getting out, and when I'm not in the Galapagos, I work from home, and one of the things I've done recently is I no longer eat breakfast, lunch, or dinner in front of my computer. I mean, it used to be an easy way to do. You go eat, you get your food, you come back, you want to be productive, but it's like, no, let's for the half hour or whatever it is that I'm eating, that's not a work time. That's a separate time. And so
Yeah.
really creating those barriers, I think, are important.
Yeah. And for me though, like, and as I think about fundraisers who might need to get out, might need to get out from behind the screen. You think about those meals as a way to spend time with people, like human
Yes,
beings, right?
yes,
Take
yes,
that
yes, yes,
and often prospects, right? Like,
yes,
let me meet up with that prospect for a coffee and bagel, or let me meet
yes,
up with that donor for a lunch, or let me get home and have dinner with the family. The breaks over meals, to your point about not being in front of the computer, those are great opportunities to be social to be
Yes.
with other people, not to be alone.
Yeah.
And I think that is a trap, like I'm so busy, I've got to eat my protein
Yes.
bar
Right.
while I'm sending an email,
Yes.
and is that really what is going to help you be most like productive as a fundraiser? And
Exactly.
I mean, again, we're not researchers, or at least most of us in fundraising are not researchers. We're
Yeah.
not um, calculating things. We're not writing code. We're trying to unlock generosity,
Yes.
and we need to be in community oftentimes to do that. So anyway,
Yeah.
that's great. That's really amazing.
Yeah.
What would you say to fundraisers who feel guilty about taking time off when the mission is so urgent? Like,
Yeah.
hey, Jim, how could you dare, go to New York to see some musicals
Yeah.
when ecosystems are collapsing?
Yeah, yeah. No, I think we all feel that. It's like my job, my work is so important that I can't take any time off, right? And it's like, is it? I mean, these problems are not going to be solved overnight. Uh, my statistics are a little bit old, and you might not have updated ones, but I think I heard once that the average turnover of frontline fundraiser was 18 months, something like that. So it's very quick turnover. You are not doing your cause any favor. You're not doing your organization any favor. You're not doing your coworker any favor if you're blowing in and out of organizations because you get burnt out, because the time it takes to train somebody in your organization, the times to bring them up to speed, uh, um, we need to be here in the long haul.
Yeah.
I once had a team of fundraisers. One had been there 6 months, one had been there 3 years, one had been there 6 years, right? The one that had been the lowest was raising gifts around 50,000. The other one was, mid one was raising gifts around 500,000. The other one was million plus because they get better at their job. They build connections, they build relationships. So the longer you can stay with an organization, the more valuable you are to the cause, the more valuable you are to the mission. And
Yeah.
and you might think I got to get everything done now, but if you end up leaving too soon, you just said all the things you worked on back. So
Yeah, right, right, right. And it's interesting because the work that we're all talking about are things that are um, issues that have been around for generations and will continue to be around for generations. But there is yet still that urgency, the tension, I guess, let's say,
yeah,
between the urgency of we need money now, get it now, and the persistence that you need to have recognizing that some good things do take time and need to be well marinated before they produce fruit.
you're right, and it's interesting that if we don't change the trajectory of climate change in the next 10 years, it's not good, you know. And so
Is that science? Is that your doctor
that's
Boyle
that's a
dropping some
Dr. Boyle.
scientific?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
If things are not good.
If we don't, and let's quote Dr. Boyle here. If we don't change,
Yes.
I get it,
Uh,
of
and
course.
and uh, um and so there is a sense of urgency. If we don't get it done next year, if we don't get it done this year, next year is even harder and
Right.
harder and harder. And so things are not going to get easier. And so some days I wake up and I go, man, it's 6 o'clock in the morning and I'm already 2 hours behind, and
Right.
and but I know it's not good, and sometimes I'll embrace that. I'll just say, okay, yes, this is the way I'm feeling. I'm going to work this way, and then time will pass and I go realize this there's other things that are important. My wife doesn't know who I am. I haven't talked to her in like a week and a half, and so. So we'd like to say we're in a professional curve that we get better and better and better. My journey has been up and down and up and down in managing this. And I think we just have to give ourselves a little bit of grace that sometimes we get it right, sometimes we don't.
Right. Well, and we're only human and we only
Yes.
have those 24 hours each
Yeah.
day. And for work, it's obviously less. Some people need to sleep, some people need to eat, some
Yeah,
people need to tend to their families and significant others and relationships.
yeah,
And then there's a space for work. Some people put a lot of time into it, and some people might put in the hours that they're required. I'm not saying any value
yeah.
judgments either way, but
But
with whatever hours there are you making the most of them, feeling good about the contribution that you're making, recognizing that it's not healthy for
yeah,
you to worry when you're not working or feel pressure to double the number of hours you're working just because the problem's so big?
yeah, yeah. And I'm going to give counter advice. Sometimes you need to. Sometimes the urgency, there may be weeks or months that you have to really buckle down, but you got to keep it in balance over the long haul.
Thank you.
You just you can't you do have to sometimes put in extra hours, and but they always say you can't bank sleep or you can't recover sleep, so you need to kind of make sure you're taking care of your health.
That's an interesting one. I think a lot of people think, well, I'll just, try to take a nap later or something, but
Yeah.
you can't, there's certain things you just can't bank,
Yes,
right?
yes, yes.
And that's an interesting concept
Yeah,
when you think about how you might prioritize certain things in your life. What are the things that are lost forever if you don't do them routinely or appropriately?
yeah,
I've never really actually thought about it that way. It
yeah.
would probably cause me to maybe rethink some of my sleeping patterns a little bit.
Yes, yes, yes. Maybe, uh, uh, I was, I just had some minor surgery, right? And the doctor was saying, well, we can put you on physical therapy, but you seem like you know what you're going to do. And so I don't know if it's worthwhile. I go, well, there's a difference between knowing and doing. I know what to do, but it doesn't mean I'm going to actually do it,
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah, yeah. And I have the issue of not knowing and not doing.
Yeah, that's good. That's
So
good.
I'm
At least
really,
you know you don't know what you're not doing or should be
yeah,
doing.
yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I'm doing all things bad, but at least it's bliss because I don't
Yes,
know any better.
exactly, exactly.
So,
Yeah,
so no
yeah,
wonder I'm able to smile.
yeah,
But let's for those fundraisers out there who aren't smiling, aren't
yeah,
able to laugh because they really are on the verge of burnout, um, and it's real for them. What are some of the first steps that you'd recommend they take just to move back toward hope?
yeah. So the first thing is take a look at yourself, look in the mirror, and say whatever you're doing is enough, right? Because we'll just assume that the people who are working it this way are good, they're talented, they're motivated, and so they need to acknowledge that whatever they're doing is enough. There's always more that we can be doing. If you work 8 hours, you can think, well, I can do 10, and if you work 10, you can do 12, and
Right, right,
it doesn't change. The work there's always the perception is, boy, if I work a little bit harder, I'll get ahead.
right, right.
But then once you get ahead, you go, I can do more. And so first of all, acknowledge that you're doing enough,
Hmm,
and just
hmm.
give yourself some grace. And then the second is maybe work with your boss or colleagues or so forth. Sometimes, and I've seen this in myself, and I've seen it in colleagues, we get focused on things that aren't important. And they take up a lot of more time than, my chart isn't, all my lines aren't perfect, or, my fundraising plan only goes into detail for 6 months, not 12. And so I really need to build out the next 12, So sometimes people get focused on things that aren't important, and that can take up a lot of time. And so work with your team, work with your colleagues on trying to see, like, I've never done it. So this is good advice to give somebody, right? but you do those time management, every 10 minutes or whatever it is, record what you're doing and what you did, and over the course of the day, you can see where you're putting time in and which one of those are really valuable. So, um,
Yeah, helpful. That's
yeah,
great.
I had a colleague who started scheduling 30-minute meetings instead of hour meetings, right?
Mhm.
And it's funny, we're getting everything done in 30 minutes that we used to get done in an hour, and we're freeing up more time. I don't know how it happened, but it's like so take a look at are you really focusing on what really matters?
Yeah, yeah, good, good. I think that's well, I think what you earlier said about just sort of the validation to um, of yourself and what you're contributing, and a
Yeah,
recognition that you can only do so much is important to start off.
yeah,
So that's a good first step, like you
yeah.
said. Um, as you look back over your own career, what do you think's given you the most hope about the power of fundraising to change the world?
It's interesting. Uh, this happened, 10, 15 years ago. So details are a little foggy these days, but we were working with this group, and there was all these specialists. It was in autism, all these different clinics and so forth, doing the similar things, but in isolation. And they're all doing great work, and it was really frustrating for families because you get a diagnosis, but you don't know where to go and what to do, and so you get on a waiting list here, and then you hear that, oh, there's a waiting list there, and you don't know what to do, right? And you're wasting time. And a donor came forward and said, "Listen, I have a pot of money, whatever it was, that if you guys develop a one-door policy, you'll get this money, and everybody can." So what a one-door policy is, a family just needs to check in with this one office, and then they'll direct you to where to go, so it's
Navigator
and
systems.
yeah, navigator system, right? And there's a lot of pushback, and faculty and researchers say, no, we can't do that. There's too many
Sure.
things. And the donor goes, fine, don't do it. You're not getting the money, right? And she kept driving and driving and driving. And eventually they developed a system, and she made a contribution. And I think it probably changed hundreds of lives every year.
Mm, wonderful.
And that was really her vision and what she made happen. So,
I love it. Yeah, great example. Great example.
yeah.
And it sure speaks to the power of donors and philanthropy to improve systems, improve lives, and improve the world. So, great example. So, as we close, I'd love to hear a takeaway, an idea from our conversation today. Like, what's the one thing that you hope listeners, those fundraisers out there that are plugging in, take away from our conversation about staying positive and motivated? What is that?
So I'll actually give you two. So
Okay,
so it's one,
fine.
yeah, one's a
Bonus.
bonus. Yeah, bonus one. One is as we mentioned just a few minutes ago, acknowledge that what you're doing is enough. There's always more that you can be doing, but what you're doing is enough. And the other one is enjoy your work, enjoy your days. There's a lot of doom and gloom out there, but it's going to be doom and gloom whether you're having fun or whether you're not. You
Yeah,
know, so you might as well have some fun, and it's okay to laugh when you're thinking about serious topics. It's okay to not carry on a burden that impacts your daily existence.
right, right. That's good.
It's I mentioned it earlier, but boy, if you smile, it improves the day, not just for you, but for others. And you get enough people smiling, maybe we can do something.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, a smile goes a long way, in terms of changing your own outlook and
Yeah,
attitude. And so there is a need to find
yeah,
joy in things, whether and it can be the work, even
Yeah.
as you point out, as serious as it is, there's joy to be had. And I think we didn't cover it, but I think let me end with this. One of the great joys of being a fundraiser, in addition to being able to play all these roles and get all this experience that you never thought you could, raising money because you're deployed in so many interesting and different scenarios, is the fact that fundraisers can enjoy the sleep of the just. And
Yes.
what do I mean by that? For those that might not have heard that or know that, like there are a lot of jobs out there where you put your head on that pillow every night and you wonder if you're actually making the world better, or if you're contributing to its demise, or if you're taking advantage of people, or if you're just not really moving the world in a positive way. But
Yeah.
every fundraiser I know and almost every nonprofit employee that I know has what's called the sleep of the just, the
Yeah.
ability to put their head on the pillow and know that they might not be making the most money because that's not the primary goal, but through the mission of the work that they're doing, they're making the world better
Yeah.
and they can have a clear conscience, right?
So many people have come up to me and say, "Well, I don't know how you do fundraising. I can never ask for money. I don't like it." And I go, "I don't ask for money either. I don't like it." Fundraising isn't about asking for money. Fundraising is about giving people an opportunity to change their community.
Yep.
And we're just inviting them in, donors and supporters and whatnot. We're that's all we have to do. And so many of the causes we work for sell themselves. So I rarely ask, I rarely describe my job as asking for money. My job is giving people a chance to impact the world.
Well, that's the perfect place to sign off. Jim, thank you for being such a force for good. Thank you also for being a teacher, a mentor to so many others, and someone that can help um, people stay positive in a world that is challenging and in a job that's challenging and for projects that are seemingly impossible to achieve. We need hope and we need people to get back in the fight every day, and you're helping us with those efforts. So thank you, thank you, thank you. But that concludes our conversation today. We would really like for you to follow us, like this podcast, share it with others. There are a few other podcasts I'd love for you to follow as well. Check out Lead for Good, also the Nonprofit Edge. Those two podcasts, like Mastering Fundraising, are really interview shows that meet with extraordinary individuals who are experts in their fields and bring a lot of clarity, understanding, and expertise to the audience. So check them all out. But until next time, thank you for joining Mastering Fundraising with me and Jim, and we'll see you all very soon. Thank you all.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you for joining this episode of Mastering Fundraising. We hope the conversation was helpful and invite you to like and subscribe to this podcast for more conversations with extraordinary nonprofit and fundraising leaders. To learn more about Fulcrum Nonprofit Leadership, please visit us on the web at fulcrumleader.com. To learn more about the 5-Tool Fundraiser, please visit us at 5toolfundraiser.com. We want to hear from you. Please share your thoughts and ideas with us at hello@fulcrumleader.com. Thank you for the important work you do to make our world stronger. We look forward to welcoming you back during a future podcast. In the meantime, take care and be well.